Hello YouTube, this is Scottish Trucker Tommy here. Different kind of video for me tonight. It's a financial video with numbers in it and some facts. So hope you like it. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the freaking button, will you? Thanks for doing that. Bye. Hello YouTube, this is Scottish Trucker Tommy here, Texas hat. About that 3 years ago, we were down there in the oil field working away, doing really well. This video tonight is about, well, it's about something a bit different for me. It's about economics, numbers and finance. So hopefully we can get some, I'm sitting this in front of a green screen here so that we can put some numbers behind it. So, basically, if we start off with Amazon laying off people, Twitter, rumours are that they're laying off half their workforce. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but they're cutting. A lot of the brokerages that we deal with right now, laying off staff. They probably don't need them because there's not a lot of freight moving. And if we go to just the big ones, forget what the small companies around about. The big ones got to be Mark Zuckerberg out there. It's hard to feel sorry for the man when he's got so much cash, but he had the biggest loss in human history this year. In one day, his shares dropped, and the poor guy lost 11 billion. Yeah, it's just a huge amount of money. $11 billion, and over the year, his fortune was worth 136 or thereabouts dollars. Now they're only worth $36 billion. So the poor guy has lost $100 billion in 1 year, like maybe 13 months. So things are not great. Inflation's at a 9% high for the last little while. Month on month, they say that is. I thought, does that mean, not very educated with this, but I thought, does that mean 9% month to month? Does that mean that if something costs 100 this month, next month it'll be 109, next month it'll be 118, whatever? But it isn't. Apparently what it means is that when it's month on month inflation, it's this month, this year compared to this month last year. So basically if you had 10 grand in your bank account last year, you could get 10 grand worth of stuff. This year, for the same 10 grand, you only get 9 grand. So hurry up, rush out and spend your money, buy stuff so that we can haul it in the trucks, because all this stuff is causing the trucking industry to go into a free fall. Don't like it, don't care for it, don't care for having to pay so much attention to it, but it kind of stinks, to tell you the truth. Quick check at my notes here. This time in February this year, 9 months ago, we were, the average freight rate was $3.10 a mile, and we were paying $3.40 a gallon for fuel. Now the average freight rate, which is all freights put together, but I'm comparing like for like, right, is $1.91 per mile, and we're paying $6 a gallon. Today in Idaho Falls, it just decided to jump up 40 cents a gallon. It was $5.68, now it's $6.08. So it just keeps up and up, you know. I think they tried to keep it low and falsely low for the elections that just happened there. So now it's done jumping up again. So basically, to put this into a personal thing, in February this year, we run down to Pensacola. We were ELD exempt, and we could do it 4 times a month. Now we can only do that 3, even if we want to do it 4 times, because you've got to have a reset somewhere along the road. We were getting $12,000 for a round trip, or give or take a little bit here and there, depending on the demand for the, you know, how urgent the load was. So we're getting 12, now we're getting 10. for the exact same round trip, and the fuel is pretty close to doubled. So what that actually means, what it equates to, I like to do this and take off my fuel costs right at the top. So off of 12 grand, it's at 6 miles to the gallon. That's 666 miles. No, sorry, 666 gallons to do the 4,000 mile round trip. So at $3.40 a gallon, plus a little bit for reefer fuel, that would have cost us $2,500 round trip to do that in fuel, right? So out of the 12, we're left with 9.5. Pretty good. The driver was on a good percentage of that. And all you have to pay off that 9.5 is the driver, which will be, at the time, was probably close to, I shouldn't really discuss the wages, but I won't. But insurance works out about $1,500 a month. Trailers about $500 a month. We're paying a lot for trailers last year. Truck payment, maintenance, tires, oil changes, breakdowns, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. You really need to be making a proper amount of money to maintain your truck properly, okay? So with 9.5 times maybe 4 trucks, 4 times in a month, but let's just go with 3. Let's pretend that everything was on the same footing, although we could run with the ELD exemption that we had. We're left with 9.5. Now, here's the scary part. Now, straight away with 3 trips, we're 6 grand down, right off the top. But the fuel cost, it's $6 a gallon, and the same mileage, our fuel, with a little bit for the reefer, is about $4,500, okay? So, off of the 10, we're left with 5.5 instead of 9.5. So, we're really $12,500 down per month, per truck, in a 9-month period of time. Now, what I've noticed in the last few months is that maintenance stuff is higher, parts are higher, tyres are higher. The scarcity of parts has driven that up, so we're in a terrible spot right now. I've seen this 3 times, this is the 3rd time I've seen it in my young life, where rates have gone down and fuel's gone up. Usually they track, and it's a delay on it. You know, it's a bit like a snake. You know, the head of the snake goes up, and that's the rate, that's the price of fuel, and it drives the rate. So the fuel price goes up, and it takes a little while for the back here to catch up to the peak. And then when it starts, the fuel price starts to go down, there's a sweet spot in there. When it goes down, you're still getting decent rates, you know, but it usually does this kind of up and down thing. Right now, it has gone so contrary that the freaking price is going straight to the bottom, and the fuel price is going straight to the top. Where it ends, you know, mega carriers and brokers are cutting each other's throat to get loads and doing them cheap. So it's really a race to the bottom. Too many people probably jumped on the bandwagon in trucking and thought, well, hey, this is a great way to make a living. I'm going to do this, and bought trucks and paid too much for them. It's just, I would hate to have been the guy who ran out and paid $225,000 or $230,000 for a brand new truck 9 months ago, thinking, this is Mardi Gras. I've got this truck, it's gorgeous. I've managed to get one because nobody can get the new trucks. So I've managed to get one. I'm paying $220,000, $230,000 for it. I'll get myself a trailer. You know, last year before the frenzy, the buying frenzy went on, a brand new trailer was 65 grand, and they were selling them on auction for 115, 120 at the peak. So if you bought that and you're $250,000 in debt, and your monthly profit from your truck has dropped by $12,000, you're in a whole world of hurt. We're in a whole world of hurt. Don't get me wrong. We're very fortunate. We've got a lot of trailers are paid off. We've got a bunch of trucks that are paid off. So if I can honestly say, if we never had those trailers and those trucks that are paid off working for us, it wouldn't have long to go. Because, and the thing is, as bad as it is for us, it's a lot worse for everybody, well, not everybody else, for a lot of other people. So we're hoping that we're still standing when all is levels out, because it has to. This can't be sustained because people can't, there's just not enough meat on the bone for you to make that happen. So that's the personal side of it there. I've covered Mr. Zuckerberg. Sorry about that, Mark. It must be absolutely gutted, only been worth 36 billion now. But it just shows you can lose 100 billion in a year, you know. The other thing that's kind of crunching on everybody is interest rates. If you want to buy a house, the amount you can borrow is tied into a percentage of your, there's multipliers. So a percentage of your income that you get every month is allowed to go to a house payment or to debt. And let's just say it's 10,000 a month you've got, and the percentage is 40%, and you're allowed to have a house payment of 4,000. Okay, or figure it any way you want. This is easy for me because it's tens and stuff. So if your monthly income is 10,000, you're allowed to have 4,000 in a payment, but interest rates used to be 3%, now they're 7 and up. So the amount of money that you're paying interest for the same house is double, right? So that means the amount of money that you can borrow is halved, right? So that's going to affect the housing market. And you know, if you're buying a house to live in, and that's you've got to have somewhere to live. But if you're buying it for investments and you're going to think you can sell it, or if your personal circumstances change and you've got to sell your house and, you know, dispose of it and do something else, you're in the pooper, you know. But if you're going to keep it long term and it's going to be the house that you get carried out of, then it doesn't make any difference. But the value of your property is just going to go down. That's one aspect, that's the interest aspect. The other aspect is in Idaho here and down in Utah, there was a huge property boom because these investment groups didn't want to put their money in the stock market because it was a bit jittery. So they bought property, and it was because you can get an annual revenue from it and the value increases. So these guys that probably lived through the 2008 crash have bought the property, they've seen it go up, they've seen the interest rate go up, and they're smarter than me. They don't want to be holding on to that in negative equity and wait till it's worth less than what they paid for it. There's a ground zero point, or a tap out point, where they'll just say, gotta get rid of these, and they'll blow them out. They'll be gone, they'll get their cash back and do something else with it. Maybe buy shares and buy Mark Zuckerberg shares. So that's when people start dumping properties, and then people that we know, can't name names, but there's people that we deal with that are truck dealers and lease companies that, I would say 12 months ago, if you wanted a truck, they would say, send us some money, and once the truck comes in, we'll put your name on it. So we'd have to send them $3,000 just to be considered to get a truck. And then if one came in, they'd put your name on it, and once it was ready, send us the money right away, or you're not getting it. And that's what we had to do to get trucks. Now, I've found out recently that they have got more trucks coming back into them than they have going out. And the whole thing like that, you know, they blew a bunch of them away at an auction this week, and people's businesses are changing completely. The trucking game has always been quite challenging. Truck drivers have been hard to find, but you know, there's not a driver. We haven't noticed a driver shortage lately. We pay the guys well, and they stick around, and we treat them good, and they've got security here. But there's a lot of companies are filing for bankruptcy now. Apparently, I read somewhere on the internet, there was 3,000 trucking companies filed for bankruptcy in the last few months. You know, and that's the ones that filed. A lot of them would probably just sell the truck and didn't have to do that, clear their feet and be done. unfortunately, a lot more people have to go out of the trucking business. I hope we're not one of them. We're doing our best to stay in it. But if you're not making any money, do something else. You know, if you've got too far into your truck and you're not making it, just get it going and do something else. A lot of trucks are being handed back. A lot of houses might end up going back, and then when the banks are ending up with all this stuff that nobody wants, then they start to hurt. So I hope we don't go down the road that we went down before. Things have to change. The biggest thing that I think has to change is this here. See here? I bought that when we were in Texas and it was doing great. The amount of infrastructure that goes into oil exploration, I couldn't even quantify it. When I was in Texas working in the frack down there, there were probably anywhere between 300 and 500 fracks happening at the same time, you know, wells being fracked. And then when the elections happened last time around, there was an announcement made that there was not going to be any more leases given out for drilling on federal land by the government because they want to move to electrical power. Now that's all great and very well. I'm all for clean air. I've driven in London. There's a lot of spots there years ago that were, you know, a lot of pollution. The buildings got a lot of soot on them, and so to a certain extent, it has to be addressed, but probably in a more slow manner. If you try to make too many changes in your business at the same time, you're going to struggle. You need to maintain the consistencies. And I think recently, California, the governor came out and begged people not to turn on their air conditioning because the grid couldn't stand it. Yet we want to have all these electrical cars. And I don't need to tell any of you out there that are paying electric bills how much those are. So yeah, fuel's expensive, but we can do something about that. So if you're an oil company and you're in Texas or New Mexico or any of these oil producing states, and you have been curtailed in the amount of future leases that you're going to have, most of these oil companies have 4, 5, 10 years worth of leases that they've already bought in the future, future. Because you don't go out and buy millions of dollars worth of drilling and fracking equipment based on having a month's supply of leases. You know, they've got that way out in the distance. So it's big investment, long-term investment, and when they stop the amount of leases that you're going to have, it makes you think, wait a minute, see if we've got a certain amount of oil left to us now. Let's produce it a bit slower and drive up the price, and we'll get more money for what we've got. Because down in Texas, it's Wild West, man. Let me tell you, it's the greatest place where you feel like you can accomplish anything. But when they start to cut that and cap the amount of drilling that there is, it's just forced the price of oil up. Then you get the media telling you that there's only so much oil left, and everybody panics and the price goes up. And you know what? There should be a law against that. But I'm not a politician. Try to run a business, and if you haven't got enough money come in the front door to pay your bills and keep afloat, yeah, you could sustain it for a little while if it's only temporarily. But you have to shut the back door and keep some of the money in and become more efficient. Slow your truck down. You know, a truck will burn 2 gallons of diesel an hour. So if you're sitting idling or you're doing a reset, it might be cheaper to buy a Motel 6 room and switch your truck off if it's too cold, you know. Everything you can do to save a penny is good. I spoke to a guy recently this week and he told me that he knew a guy that was financing tyres. I think if you have to go and finance your tyres, something's not right. It's a warning sign. So I hope that you can make it. If you're bitten off more than you can chew, accept it and do something about it, and get yourself into a better spot. There's nothing worse than working your way into oblivion, you know. So always have a long-term plan. Is our philosophy, to have a long-term goal, but you need to meet your medium goals and your short-term goals to get to those. And if the long-term thing can be achieved by a little bit of a loss, then go for it. But if it doesn't look like you can do it, then, you know, it's a bit like having gangrene in your toe. You know, cut it off as quick as you can before it creeps all the way up your leg. But difficult times out there. I hope this has not just sounded like a rant, but it's a strange economy we're living in at the minute. So yeah, we're just trying to survive and be standing when it all comes back again, because when it all comes back, you know, and it will, I hope. So anyway, talk to you later. Thanks for watching.